What says the state?
State's ready, Your Honor. May it please the court, counsel, members of the jury. The past few weeks have led to today. In fact, almost a month ago, we started the jury selection process. But all of that brings us to today. And what is today? Today is the day that Botham Shem Jean, his murderer, is going to be punished for unjustly taking his life. We're in the punishment phase now. You 12 will be charged with assigning and assessing this defendant's punishment, and you'll have to come up with a unanimous decision as to how many years should this defendant serve in prison for murdering Botham. So where do we go from here? Where do we go from here? You've got to learn today a little bit over the past few days about how bright Botham was, how much his family loved him, his coworkers loved him, practically anyone who's ever met him loved him. And that was only a small glimpse into the life of Bo. You also got to hear from those that love the defendant and the good things that she's done. And in punishment, you get to consider all of this. And you should consider all of this, because now's the time that you make your decision as to what is a just punishment, what is appropriate for the horrible crime that has occurred here. You know, we spent some time talking with Bo, friends, family. They told you how loving he was, how encouraging he was, how helpful he was. He spent a life wanting to help others, and you get to take that into consideration as to who this individual was and how this affects not only the Jean family, but all of us. We all were robbed of Botham and the greatness that he brought to Dallas County. But honestly, who knows what his impact could have truly have been had his life not been taken from him. We also brought you some more information that you might not have been aware of about the defendant and her character. And that's something that you get to take into consideration as well. You know, people only get to see the sides of you that you show them. But who are people when they really trust you? When they really feel like they can trust you, that's who they're going to show you who they truly are. And what did the defendant show us? In State's Exhibit 357, the state presented a copy of an item on social media that the defendant tagged to her Pinterest account. We also presented another piece of evidence that the defendant has saved to her Pinterest account in State's Exhibit 358 and also in 359. And I anticipate that the defense is going to argue that these are dark humor, just jokes, maybe even cop humor. But is this really the kind of things that we want our officers joking about? And not just the memes themselves, but take a look at the comments and what's written down. That will really show you what this defendant had in her heart when no one else was looking. The things that, even if they are a joke, she found funny. But what does she write underneath these? You look at that. But let's say you want to say that these are just jokes, and I get it, because there can be dark humor out there. But there's no joke in these text messages. These text messages to where on September 4th, 2018, 2 days prior to the defendant murdering Bo, she's joking about a racist dog. And she responds, and you can see it in here, and you'll be able to take this exhibit to read it for yourself, that it's okay, I'm the same. That's what this defendant is telling her friends when no one else is looking. And then if you go down a little bit further, I hate everything and everyone but y'all. Who's the y'all she's talking about? Who does this defendant really care about? And then the MLK parade. You got to hear that the defendant was joking about the death of Dr. Martin Luther King, a man who brings so much inspiration to all of us, a man who quite a few individuals, you remember those jury questionnaires when we asked you who you admire the most or who you admire the least? Guess whose name came up? Dr. Martin Luther King. And it should, because he talked about love, equality, justice, not judging a person by the color of their skin, but the content of their character. That's who Dr. Martin Luther King was, and that's why so many people admire him. And so while working the Martin Luther King Day Parade in January of 2018, what did we learn about the defendant? She's mocking his death. And if that's not bad enough, what does the defendant suggest other officers do to people who have gathered to celebrate Dr. Martin Luther King's legacy? She's suggesting the use of force by police. Just push them? Or spray or pepper spray in the general area? Is this how we're supposed to be treating people? Is this what it means when we say we want to serve and protect the community? Which community are we talking about? Again, this is punishment. You get to take all of this into consideration, and you get to weigh this evidence. And each one of you can make that determination for yourselves. And last but not least, when that message the defendant sent about "I only care about y'all," we found out that the y'all might not include fellow officers, because the defendant and Martin Rivera seem to have certain thoughts about black officers. I don't know what you do with that. How does that make sense? A fellow brother or sister in blue, but we're going to make a distinction because of the color of their skin? And according to the defendant, they have different way of working, and it shows. Thank you, Judge. Again, these are the things that you get to consider when you, what is a just and appropriate punishment. And you'll have an evidence to take back with you, State's Exhibit number 356. In this exhibit, when you turn to page 6, and start at about 10:30 p.m. on September 8, 2018, you're going to see how the defendant truly showed her remorse for the death of both of them. While his family is planning his funeral, you're going to see what she and Martin Rivera were talking about and what they were planning to do. Is that a remorseful person? You get to decide that. And then lastly, I just want to say about this charge. When it comes to the fine doesn't go to the family. Do not concern yourselves about a fine. In fact, write 0 or none. That fine will not go to the Botham family. You can disregard that. But you'll have to come up with a number unanimously. There's a wide range of punishment for murder here in the state of Texas. 5 to 99 years or life. Some of you may say, this isn't a life case. Some of you may feel differently. Some of you say, this isn't a minimum case, and don't let the defense get up here and disrespect you by telling you that this case is deserving of a minimum punishment. You've heard who Botham was and what he means to his family and all of us. This is not a 5-year, 10-year, or 15-year case. And I'm confident that when you go back there to deliberate, you will assess a just and appropriate punishment.